Hello and welcome back. I am the BrownBookTuber and I'm here with my May wrap-up. I read 4 books in May, so double last month, less than I had wanted to. But I'm going to talk about them because, frankly, I think overall it was a good selection of 4 books. The link to my Goodreads will be down below, and also a list of all the books with their authors, and maybe a listing place for you to buy them. So, let's kick it off with the first book I read. The first book I read was the Tyrannosaurus Chronicles by David Horn. I don't know why I bought this book. I think I got it because I saw a book about dinosaurs whilst I was working in the bookshop. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it is. And I was like, dinosaur?
Right.
Yes, please. So, this book is about the history of the Tyrannosaurus, because obviously the T-Rex is the most famous of dinosaurs, probably coming into prominence due to things like Jurassic Park.
Are you talking about them things from Jurassic Park?
My takeaway from this book is I very much struggled. This book took me a very long time to read. Like, I started it ages ago and eventually got around to reading through it, or just forced myself to read it. It is very technical. It is very scientific. I struggled with it. I think if you have a good knowledge of science and biology and geology, you'll find this easy. Obviously, if you're a paleontologist, this book will be a breeze. It will probably be very recommended to you, I think. I don't really understand science all that well. I just like dinosaurs. This is a little bit too high level for me. So, overall, for me personally, I'm going to give it 3 Blue the Velociraptors out of 5. The second book I read, I actually have made a video on. It is Gaza Writes Back. It is a collection of short stories of young people from Gaza. I think it came out just after the Gaza War of 2009. I'm not 100% sure on that. I might have got my numbers on. This book, collection of short stories, I would say, moved me. I mentioned in my video before, which you can click here to watch, genuinely very much moved me, made me cry. I would greatly recommend these. Some of them are very, very well written as well, especially as they were all written by young people. I'm not sure what they defined as young people. I can find it in my research, but definitely from like a teen to a young adult. I can't stress enough how much I recommend you to read this book. It is a 5 out of 5 for me. The third book I read this month was the Wind-Up Bird Chronicles. I actually finally got around to reading it and sitting down and fully reading through it. I love Murakami. At first I was struggling to get into it. To me it was slow, and I was struggling to keep up to pace with it. I was putting it down for a while. However, when I got into it, I was like, okay, I want to see where this is going. This is different. Very Murakami, as always, where it's set in a realistic environment. There's aspects of realism, but then also what is going on here? What do you mean? Wait, what? Why is he in a well? What? So very good. I don't think it's my favorite Murakami. I don't know where I would put it on the list. I think I've put about 6 or 7 Murakami books off the top of my head. It would probably be in the middle for me, which is surprising because I know a lot of people absolutely love this book. This is a lot of people's favorite Murakami book. But it wasn't bad. Look, I'm going to give it 4 Wind-Up Birds out of 5, but it's not my favorite Murakami book. However, obviously, if you're a fan of Murakami, read it. I personally wouldn't suggest to someone to be their first Murakami book. For that, I would probably recommend The Colorless Pilgrimage or Norwegian Woods, because those are a little bit more grounded and a little bit more realistic. That's obviously the ones I've read. I've not read stuff like Sputnik. Maybe I would recommend some of his short stories, like Men Without Women. That collection of short stories is pretty good. But personally, I wouldn't recommend Wind-Up Bird Chronicles to be your first Murakami book. I would say read it when you're a few Murakami books in. And the final book I read this month, which I'm going to read the title of, was Natives, Race and Class in the Ruins of Empire by Akala. Akala, the very outspoken activist from London, activist, musician, poet, actor at points. So He is so many things. It is a book, obviously, about race and class relations in Britain and the British Empire, or the subsequent life of what is now the British Empire. He very much does talk about his own experience, but everything isn't just informed by his own experience. There's a lot of statistics, there was a lot of data and evidence provided, which I like. It's not just him giving anecdotal stuff. He supports anything he says anecdotally with actual research, which is great, and something which is something that is very much expected from someone as intelligent and well-read and outspoken as Akala. It does lean very much heavily on the experience of Black Britons, which again is entirely understandable. There is some, obviously, talk about people from other parts of the former British Empire. A very, very good, informative read. And it's not a difficult read either. I think sometimes people are maybe put off by these kind of books because it might be difficult to read. Not maybe emotionally, but also from a standpoint of some people just throw statistics at you, whereas Akala is very smart, and he gives you statistics, but also he explains, elaborates, talks about them. He gives you examples, he gives you dates. Very, very good, very useful. I learned a lot of things. Obviously, I learned a lot of things about the Black British experience. Not heard about. Stuff that I'm obviously not familiar with, being a British South Asian. So, to me, this was extremely interesting to read. It was extremely interesting to learn about. It very much taught me stuff where I had an inkling, I had an understanding, I had these thoughts, but also the stuff that Akala brought up, the stuff that he talked about, the stuff that he referenced, the statistics he gave, really were like, okay, I more so understand these thoughts and ideas and things I had seen myself. And obviously there was mention of certain peoples and works that he recommends to read, or stuff that he likes himself, which I will definitely be going out to pick up, whether it be film, movies, books, autobiographies, speeches from prominent British Black people, or just prominent people who opposed empire. Very much talks about a lot of talking points that people who don't like the likes of Akala bring up, and these are certainly things that I've had said to me. So yes, probably the most the more clearly politically charged of the 4 books that I've read this month, but also it's definitely a 5 out of 5 for me. I definitely, out of all of the books that I've read this month, I recommend Natives and Gaza Writes Back the most. Also, the audiobook, I believe, of Natives is read by Akala himself, so I don't know if he adds any additional messaging or notes in the audiobook like some authors do, but if you prefer audiobooks, I would definitely recommend picking up the audiobook version of the book. So that was my wrap up of May. 4 books, a little bit less than I wanted to. I'm going to aim for 5 next month, or 4 very long books. I don't know. Let me know what you read this month. I would love to hear if you've read any of the books I read this month and your opinions on them. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope you read a fantastic book.